Adam, in other red dot news, red dot pistols are completely taking over all the shooting sports. Is the most popular in all the world right now in tactical, in carry. Now it's getting to be that same way in shooting sports. And more proof, the Tactical Games has announced that they are allowing red dots in all divisions except for Elite Division.
Yeah, I would say one of the least optic friendly sports traditionally has now embraced optics. It's amazing.
Yeah, this is interesting. So this is reading a statement from Jared Halbert, the owner of TAC Games, and he says there was an in-person vote before a stage at the championship within the Elite Division, and the large majority voted to keep with iron-sighted pistols. To make this as clear as possible, red dots are allowed in intermediate men's and women's, tactical men's and women's, 40 plus men's and women's, 50 plus men's, and team divisions. Red dots are not allowed in elite men's and elite women's. I will be following up here with a list of blah, blah, blah. As stated before, I voted for red dots in elite. So, yeah. So the good thing about Jared is like he's a competitor as well. So he has other people run these votes. And I do appreciate that about him. Before I get your reaction, I just got to point out that as with all things, this is why we don't have nice things. One of the very first comments on there is from Mr. Orange here, and he's being a chicken little. So what you are saying is that with the addition of dots to pistols, pistol targets just got smaller, or shot presentation will be much more will be more difficult. And I laughed and laughed and laughed because if you read the statement, we've got it on the screen here. If you're watching this on YouTube, nowhere does Jared say that. It's just the craziest binary thinking that can possibly happen on the internet. It's like if I say, man, Amax, I really love vanilla ice cream cones, and you just go, well, you don't like chocolate? Like, no, yeah, man, I like all ice cream.
Chocolate's delightful.
Yeah. Why don't you like cheesecake? Like, we weren't talking about cheesecake. We're talking about ice cream.
Not even a dairy product.
You don't like spoons? Like, no, man. I like spoons. Just it's an ice cream cone. I don't need a spoon.
Spooning, all of it. I'm a fan.
So silly, but I thought that was hilarious. So I just had to bring that up. But I did just check. I actually screenshotted that because I knew I wanted to talk to you about it. But I did just check before we got on the show here. It's now up to like 217 comments, and like almost all of them are positive. So it's just one of those like everybody. Maybe it's not a good thing that everybody can state whatever's on their mind sometimes, but gosh dang it. That's yeah. So anyway, TAC Games, red dots are now allowed on pistols. Pretty crazy.
Well, I don't pretend to know much about tactical games, but what I get out of that statement is it would have been unilateral pistol dots, but they asked the pros, and the pros all looked in their holsters and saw the iron-sighted pistol that they spent a lot of money on. So, yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, everybody else can have them, but you.
So I'll go back and ask. I'll ask Jared if I can mention that he told me a little something behind the scene. We had a couple DMs before I published this, so I'll make sure I have permission. But I'll tell you right now, since we're not recording this live, or we're not doing this live, but he said that the sentiment was that they wanted to keep the difficulty in the division, which I thought was a really silly reason. Like there can be difficulty with dots, and it doesn't just mean like making smaller targets or putting them away, farther away. It's just like things become faster. And one of the things that I appreciate about the tactical games is that they actually look at hit percentage because they're a completely different sort of scoring system than USPSA or 3-gun. So they look at like hit percentage, right? The number of hits that were made on target, and then adjust the difficulty of the targets for the next match. And so if the targets are getting too easy, they make them harder. And if the targets are getting too hard, they make them easier or less difficult. How about that? So I think that they put a lot of thought into the targets and the target placement and what they want like the hit percentage to be. And so for a whole division to say like, oh, we just want it to be harder. It's like, there's other ways to make stuff harder than just not allowing dot. Yeah. It's kind of silly.
And, welcome to my life. But, when I hear that, what I hear is what jumps out to me is like, you got to consider the source. Who are they asking?
Yeah.
They're asking
So,
bodybuilders.
well, so I actually thought about the same thing, and from again from my perspective, and like I don't know all the names that are on the list of tactical games, but the people that are now in elite division to me seem like I wouldn't say bodybuilders. I think that's the wrong term, but I think that they're like hard chargers. A lot of them are CrossFitters, and they either come from the tactical world or the CrossFit world, and they're not necessarily shooters. So I don't think they know what they don't know in that case.
Yep, I probably misused that term, but that sport is drawing heavily from people who work out and want a contact sport to play.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily shooters who are looking for something more physically challenging. So, and
yeah,
like
I think that's a really good point.
I still encounter the people who are like, "Oh, we need to teach guys irons first before we teach them dots." Like, no, that's stupid. There's no logic in that other than tradition.
Yeah, so I personally thought that way when I started shooting. Like I shot iron sight rifle, and my thing was I will graduate to an optic when I learn iron sights, and that was really really dumb. I spent like way too much ammo effing around with iron sights, and it's like it's not like it's that hard. Like it's simple but not easy, right? Just like everything else that we do in shooting. So as long as you understand like the fundamentals of like how to align the sights and everything, why not just go straight to the division that you want to shoot, that you ultimately want to shoot, or add a dot or add an optic? Like life's too short to screw around with iron sights. Ooh, write that down.
Well, and like the two don't translate. Like you aren't learning anything with iron sights that's going to hinder you, or you're not like not knowing how to do something with optic. Whenever I hear that phrase, all I hear is not my dad specifically, but a dad, like, with telling their 12-year-old kid, I just bought you this deer rifle and you're going to use it a little bit while I save up to buy you a scope. Like,
yeah,
scope when you're 14.
Yeah. And if I'm
going to start driving, you can have a new one when you're 18.
If I'm, like real honest with myself, like that's probably what I was doing, because at the time, I mean, we're talking 12 years ago. Like I definitely stretched to build that first AR-15, and I was shooting steel case. So if that tells you anything.
Oh yeah.
So like and I don't even, I don't know what like, I mean, I bought a used optic. Like that's where I was when I graduated to actually shooting an optic. So yeah, I totally agree. I think that's where it's at. And I don't know, I'm just in a completely different mindset right now. And if I don't know, years ago I watched the Art of the Precision Rifle, the Magpul video. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Todd Hod,
I still don't
so amazing. So amazing. And Todd Hodnett said what are you laughing about?
I'm laughing about him drawing on the door of his pickup truck with a driver.
That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, man. I was like, dude, that guy doesn't give a shit. But no, that was totally cool. But yeah, so one of the biggest takeaways I got from that one is like, if you care about like a hunt, if a hunt means a lot to you, you need good glass. And if you can't afford good glass for your hunting rifle, for your sniper rifle, for your coyote rifle, it's like get one good optic and change it to all three of them. And he said like, a zero, there's no voodoo in a zero. It's like easy to get. And I always thought like, okay, well, that's not true, because I remember what an ordeal it was to go to the range. I didn't have a car. I remember what like an ordeal it was to zero a scope. I didn't know what I was doing, but now that I have those skills, I have my own car and I have a range membership. Those things are really easy to do. So yes, I totally agree, Todd. Like if you can only afford one good scope, get that one good scope, swap it between all your rifles. And, that's obviously the way to go. But yeah, I think it's short-sighted to think that dots aren't going to be in that division at some point, and might as well just rip that Band-Aid off now.
Yeah, and give people what they want. People want to shoot those guns. I mean, the sales numbers don't lie. That's what guns are getting made. That's guns are getting bought. We, as a sport that is trying to create the context for people to play with those guns, we got to create the world that they want to play in.
Yep. Yeah, so I have a bunch of pistols on my desk right now. I won't show you, but Every one of them has dot capable. The only pistol I have that is not dot capable is my TAC Ops gun, because I bought that before it was a thing. All IWI pistols come dot ready now. What was that? Are you allowed to tell me that stat on the Glock MOS? Their numbers, their pistol numbers.
I don't know that number off the top of my head.
Oh, okay. Maybe that was someone else, but it's the pistols that are sold with MOS versus not sold with MOS capability.
It's astounding.
Like it's far outnumbers.
Like the day is quickly coming that you won't be able to buy one without an MOS plate.
100%. Like I think that the only reason that they still make them without MOS plates is that there's the California registry, and so they still make stuff that's on the registry. So like, why not just ship them everywhere? Oh, I remember who told me that story now. I don't know. God damn it. I got to ask a bunch of people for permission to talk about them. Just assume if you ever speak to me in a social environment, I'm going to talk about you on the podcast.
Pro tip, if you don't want Dave to talk about something, you need to preface with off the record.
And write down what was off the record. So I remember. I have a bulletin board behind the camera here. But yeah, so the guy I was talking to is an optics salesperson. And he said that the dealers that he sells to say that they can sell a pistol that is dot ready to someone that does not want a dot, but they cannot sell a pistol that is not dot ready to someone that does want a dot. So if it's not dot ready, lose the sale. So that's like the way the whole market is right now.
Oh, exactly. And like I still shoot a lot of iron-sighted pistols, but one, I like the guns and I'm an enthusiast, but also I have to teach and be able to talk to the transition. So I go back and forth to remain relevant on both, but like you're not missing out on anything using our dots. It made something hard easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. It makes it so much easier. So there you go. Red dots are now allowed in TAC games, except for one division, which is the elite division. And that's okay because, they asked the shooters what they wanted. But I predict that eventually every division will have dots. But there you go. Dots rule, man.
Dots are officially tactical.